Good afternoon. Welcome to this webinar on ProjectHQ. My name is Ryan Shaplinski. I'm the main person training and supporting ProjectHQ at this time. So today we're going to go through a couple of things here in regards to notifications in ProjectHQ and CrewHQ. There is a little bit of a change to the topic today. Unfortunately, what we were going to cover is being released tomorrow. So I don't have the ability to show you these alerts that are going to be coming out tomorrow. I will explain a little bit about how that feature works, and we will likely do another webinar to explain that, but it is relatively easy to set up and to use the notifications. So the topics for today, I'm going to explain a little bit about the new feature that's going to be released tomorrow and how the notifications will work there. We will talk about the notifications that are currently available for CrewHQ and notifying employees of when they are going to be scheduled on a task. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the email correspondence in ProjectHQ as well. I don't anticipate this to take the full hour. Typically, these go between 20 and 30 minutes. So we will have some additional time at the end here for questions. There is a question box in the GoToWebinar. If you want to go ahead and type in any questions there, I'd be happy to answer those as we go, or we'll save those for the end of the call. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and dive in here. So again, first of all, the alerts that we were supposed to cover today, those are going to be released tomorrow. Those alerts are going to notify users in HQ for different things that have happened against that user. For example, if I were to create an action item and assign that to a user of HQ, the way that it works today, the only way you see that action item is if you email it to somebody or if you log in and you go look at your action items. Well, what we're going to have the ability to do now is to see a notification that'll say you have a new action item assigned to you, or you had an RFI sent to you, or you were assigned this purchase order. So there's going to be two places where these notifications will show up. The first thing that we would need to do once this is released tomorrow is go to My Account here, and under this My Account option, you're going to have options to turn on or off what notifications you want to receive. And so do I get a notification every time I get an action item, or every time I receive a document, or just certain conditions there? So each user can customize their notifications to match their needs, and you'll basically just turn on or off the different categories of notifications that we're going to offer. Once you have those turned on, and again, once we release this tomorrow, then you will be able to see those notifications. That's actually this little bell here in the top right corner. That is our message or notification center. And we can kind of see the start to this here. Nothing would populate in this today. This will be populated tomorrow, but this is what it's going to look like. If I did not have any notifications, it's going to tell me I'm all caught up. If there was a new action item or a new RFI or a new document assigned to me, then I would see that listed here to notify me that there was something that needed my attention. The other piece of the notifications here, the other thing that we are going to start to notify all users of, is when there's a change made in the program and when we release an update. So next time we do an update after tomorrow, and after these notifications are released, then you'll get a notification that'll tell you when these updates come out and exactly in the release notes what has changed and what new information is going to be available, or what we did in that update. So this notification window does have two different, I guess, screens or two different notifications here. The bell at the bottom is going to be any personal notifications of a new document assigned to you, a new action item, or anything along those lines. And then here, this little rocket ship, this is going to show us any new features. Now, right now, I can't click or do anything on this, but this will list out all the updates that we've done, and then you'll be able to select this and view a web page or view the actual release notes for that release. So that was what was intended to be covered today. Obviously, without it being released yet, there's nothing I can really show you with that, but that is how this is going to work. We will do another instructional video on that. When this comes out, if anybody has questions or needs help with this, you can reach out to me. I'll put my email address up here at the end of the webinar. And then also our support department would be able to help you if you log a call to them. They can walk you through any setup or any help with these notifications once that comes out tomorrow. So again, that was the goal with today. And that's really all it was. That was only going to take about 10 or 15 minutes anyway, just to kind of cover what different notifications we saw here. But we will do another webinar on that. So to fill some of our time, I want to make sure that we do talk about some of the other notifications we can get in HQ. Other ways of managing correspondence and sending messages or information back and forth, whether that be internally between my fellow employees that are working here in ProjectHQ, or even externally if I'm sending someone an RFI or assigning someone an action item. As we're creating these different documents and records, we can email them right from HQ. And then HQ has a mailbox for every single job. Every job has its own unique mailbox. So then we're able to keep track of all the incoming and outgoing emails in the mailbox for the project. So we're going to use the remainder of the time here just to cover a couple of other things, since they do kind of fall in line with correspondence and notifications here in HQ. There are notifications that are available today. However, those are related to our scheduling module or the scheduling program in this HQ suite. There's a program called CrewHQ. So that is an optional add-on program that you can purchase. Not everybody's going to have that. You might have the project management program and not have CrewHQ. So CrewHQ we do sell as a separate product. It does stand alone. You don't have to have Project HQ. And that's going to be the word schedule on the main menu here on the left. And how this pertains to the notifications, when we're out there creating schedules for jobs and we're assigning resources and assigning employees to do different tasks in the scheduling, we can notify them of what their tasks are. It'll send a notification via email, text message, and you can also get a notification here in the alerts. That's why this is actually available today. This does show alerts, but right now only the alerts if I'm scheduled to do something on a job in that CrewHQ program. So the setup of this is going to be found on the main menu here. If we go into setup, there's going to be a notifications option here, and this is just for CrewHQ. The actual system-wide alerts, those are going to be set up under my account. But for the CrewHQ notifications of who's scheduled to go do what, notifying the employees of their schedule and their tasks, that's going to be found here under notifications in setup. There's two different conditions here where we can notify an employee of their schedule or of a task they're assigned to. So the first one here says, if I assign an employee to a task, or if I unassign them, if I remove one of these resources or one of these employees from a task, then it would go out and it would send an email, a text message, and or a notification in the Project HQ application here. The only way they're going to see the notification in the Project HQ application is if they're users, right? They got to log in here and then they would see that notification in the top right. So when we set this up, each company has the option to choose to turn this on or off, and then to choose how we want to notify the employees. In order to notify them by text message and email, we have to have a phone number, of course, but it has to be marked as a cell phone. When you set up phone numbers on contacts, you can pick a business phone, a personal phone, a mobile phone. It's got to say cell in order for it to for us to send that text message to them. So you might have a phone number on a contact, but if it doesn't say cell, then it's not going to send the text. So you just have to change this phone type field to say cell. So you can pick and choose here whether we want them to get all three of these notifications. And then the other condition here is when a task is rescheduled. So if I assigned Ryan to go do a task on a job next Wednesday, and I'm not going to remove Ryan or unassign Ryan from that task, but I'm going to move the task from Wednesday to Thursday, then if this second setting here is turned on, then it would also send that notification for my task being rescheduled. It'll send me an update and say, that now that you're doing this on Thursday. And we'll see what these notifications look like here in a second. So each company can set this up how they like, and you hit save here on each one of these, and then it's going to generate these notifications for users in CrewHQ, creating schedules and assigning resources or employees to tasks on the job. So this is something that pops up. Real quick here, I'll go schedule myself on a task just so we can see this notification. And we're not really covering CrewHQ here today, so we're just going to go into this. We're going to do a new task here. Matter. I messed that up. There we go. So we create a task, then we assign resources. If I assign myself for that same date and time, and that's okay. I'm double booking myself, which again, we've covered this in other webinars. I just want to show you the notification here. So we're going to save that. And then in a second here, I'll show you what that email looks like. I'll get the email. the text message, I can read it to you here. I can't truly show you that, but the text message notification says you've been assigned a new task on a job, and then it says click here for details. So you click a link in the text message, and then it's going to open up a web page that shows the information for that task. The information that is shown for the task is the same thing that we're going to see on this email. So here's what it looks like. So it comes from a no reply email address. This yellow bar, this is something that Foundation does to our emails. This is not part of the ProjectHQ email. This is part of our security at Foundation. So that yellow bar doesn't count. That's not part of the email we send out. And then here we can see I was assigned this new task. That's the task name. And then it just gives me the information that I keyed in. What job is it for, dates and times, where's the address or the location of that project, what other resources have been assigned to this task. So I know if I need to grab materials or there's going to be a certain piece of equipment on the job site for that task. And then there's a spot you can enter notes as well. You can actually put like 10,000 characters worth of notes into a task, and that would all show here. The text message, when you click the link that says click here to see details, it opens up a web page that looks exactly like this. The only difference that I found on my smartphone is when I open this up from the text message, I can click on this address and it opens up my map app, my Google Maps app on my phone. Otherwise here, you just highlight this and copy and paste it. But from your phone, that text message, when it opens up this web page, you can click on that address to actually launch if you have the Google Map app on your phone. So these notifications are currently out there. So part of this is just talking about any notifications we have in HQ that would generate that email, that text message notification, and then I should see my task pop up here. Not sure why it looks all wonky like that. That might have to do with some of the stuff that we're updating here tomorrow. I apologize for that. But this typically would just say you've been assigned a new task, and then you can click on that to view the task, assuming you have access to the scheduling. So this does show here. This will get updated and cleaned up tomorrow, and I've never seen it look like that. I'm not sure why it looks like that here today, just to embarrass me, I guess. But we can mark that as red. It'll basically clear that out of here, and then you're back to having no notifications there. So that's available today. And then tomorrow we're going to have the additional notifications where if you're assigned an action item, you get a document sent to you or assigned to you, just different conditions within HQ that will generate those notifications as well. Keeping in line with the theme of correspondence, the next thing I want to kind of talk about here a little bit is how the emailing works in ProjectHQ. So back over specifically in the project management program, we do have the ability to send emails directly from the ProjectHQ system. I mentioned earlier, every job has its own mailbox. Every job has its own email address. Technically, every document you create in HQ has its own email address. So each document even has its own mailbox. Now those is specific to that document, the project mailbox would include those same emails, but it's going to have all the emails for the job, whereas the document mailbox would just have the emails for that one document. So there's several different ways that we can look at the mailboxes here within HQ. So first off, if we go into a project here, so I'm going to go back to my project list and go into this job. This is where I have all my emails stored. When you go into a project, it's going to open up this dashboard, kind of gives you the 10,000 foot view of this job, what's going on for this job here, what's the weather out there for the project, and so on. And we do have a mailbox that shows here on this dashboard. Now, this is a dashboard. This is not the full mailbox. So this is just showing the 3 most recent emails. So I find it kind of funny, but this is only going to show you either 0, 1, 2, or 3. It's not telling you have 3 new emails. It's not telling you, it's not an inbox like that. It's just showing you the 3 most recent emails. So if you have 3 emails, this is always going to have, say, 3, unless you have less than 3 emails for this job so far. So that count really doesn't really provide you any benefit or anything. We'll always see the 3 most recent emails here. And the mailbox is not, there's not an inbox and an outbox and a sent box and all of that. It's just one mailbox. You'll see all the sent and all the received in one place. So actually these 3 that show here, these were outgoing. I created an RFI in HQ. I emailed it directly from the system. And so that shows in the mailbox here. Whoever I sent that RFI to, if they were to reply to it, well, their reply is then going to show up on top of that or above that here in the mailbox once they send their reply back in. So as long as if we do send these through HQ, which I'll show you how we do that, the recipient that gets that email, if they're just replying right back to it, that's automatically going to be tagged back to the project, back in the mailbox. And ideally, you have all your correspondence in the one mailbox here. The way that this works and kind of how we tie the mailbox to a project and emails into this mailbox is by using a specific email address. So if we go to the details of our job, there's going to be a link here or a field here that says email address. And we don't show you what that email address is, and I'll show you why. I'm going to open up an email and just paste this into that email. So it's because it's that, right? No one's ever going to remember that or type that in. There's no point in showing you that here. You're always going to copy and paste it anyway. So this is probably the least efficient way of sending an email. This is not how you want to do it, but this is one way of sending an email. If I had a new blank email that I was going to compose for this job, and I can send this to whoever it needs to go to. So I'm going to email this to Terry here. And then you just compose your email like normal. You know, you can put attachments on here. It's a normal email, except we have this email address tagged. So when we send this, it's going to also save it in the mailbox in HQ. Anytime there's any email anywhere that has this email address on it, it's going to automatically save it in HQ. So if Terry were to send me an email and it's just sitting in my inbox, I can forward that email to the project email address and it'll save her email in HQ. If I want to blind copy this so they don't see this email address, you can blind copy it. If it's somewhere in that address, that email is going to save in HQ. So this is one way of doing it. You know, you can get to the project email address from here, kind of copy and paste it, and then just create an email like normal. From that dashboard, there was a new email button here. And one of the things I like to kind of explain first before I go into this, we don't specifically communicate or integrate with any email program, right? We're not talking to Outlook. This isn't Outlook integration. We're not specifically communicating with your email server or with your Gmail or anything like that. It's all about that project email address. So when you go to send a new email here, you have two options. If I select Project HQ, that's going to open up a web page. I'm going to be able to fill out this form to send an email. But based on what I just explained, it's not going to come from me. It's not going to come from my email address. It's not going to be in my outbox. It's going to come from my contact name in HQ at appmail.projecthq.com. It is coming from the Project HQ website. So maybe not the best way of sending an email, but you always have the ability to do this. So if you're on a device and you don't have your email handy or whatever, you can still go into HQ and you can still generate an email from here. But it is going to come from HQ. It's going to be in the mailbox in HQ, but it's not going to be in your outbox because you didn't send it. HQ did. The other option here, when we say new email, is this option that says mail app. Wait a minute. Ryan just told me that we don't communicate with Outlook. Why did it just open up an Outlook email here? So I maintain my statement. We don't communicate with Outlook or any specific email program. Oops. What's technically happening here when you select that option that says mail app, the web browser is telling your Windows computer to launch the default email application in Windows. So it's really just a setting on your computer. It doesn't have anything to do with Outlook. Now, 99 times out of 100, it's going to be Outlook. If you have Outlook installed, you're using Windows, you have Office, that's probably your default email program. And it'll do exactly what we saw on my screen here. But if you don't have Outlook installed, if you use the web-based version, nothing might launch here. You might get nothing. By default, when you take a brand new computer out of the box, there's a generic Windows email program that's set as the Windows email. So it might open up a generic Windows email here, or it might not launch anything if you don't have Outlook installed or you don't have a default set in Windows. But there is a spot you can just type in default apps in your Windows search bar, and it'll list out what your default browser is, what your default email program is, what your default notepad program is. You can basically define default apps throughout your computer. That's what's happening here. So in my case, and in most cases, it's going to open up Outlook. But if you use the web-based version of Gmail or you use Office 365 on the web, it's possible that you don't have an email application to launch here. And we're not specifically communicating with Outlook. So this is another way to send an email where it just automatically copies the project email address on there. you hit the new email button. This would be the best way of doing it because it's going to come from you. It's going to be in your outbox, and it's also going to save in the mailbox here in HQ. The actual full mailbox can be found here under collaboration and mailbox. Now I've opened that up in another tab. I do always tell people here, and you can see how many emails I have. A lot. Probably still not as many as you guys would have for like a longer duration job. I think you guys will still probably have more emails than I do, but I'm getting there. There's a lot here. And the reason I point that out is because when I go to my mailbox, it does take like 15, 20, sometimes 30 seconds to load. I'm not talking minutes. You don't have to sit here for 5 minutes before it shows the emails. But compared to all of the other screens in Foundation, this definitely takes a few ticks longer. So usually, like I said, like 15, 20 seconds, just a little bit longer. But if you're thinking, hey, none of my emails are loading here, it's just pulling them all in. It's got to retrieve all these from this web-based email server and display them all here. And the more you have, the more it is going to slow it down a little bit. But you know, I'm getting pretty closer to what I think most people would have, and it's like 15, 20 seconds. So this is every email that I've sent or received into ProjectHQ. So I've forwarded emails to that project email address. I've sent emails directly from HQ, you know, copied that project email address on there, and the emails go into the mailbox here. From this, you can do a new email, and it's the same two options. When you're looking at an email, you do have the really basic email functionality to reply to this or forward or reply all from here. And then the way that most of my emails are in there, and the best and the easiest way of sending an email in HQ. So far, the couple examples that I've showed you, it was just creating a new blank email, right? It wasn't related to an RFI. We weren't sending somebody a submittal. We were just sending a message via email, and it would have saved in the mailbox. Well, when we're going through ProjectHQ and we're creating change orders and purchase orders and RFIs and all these different documents, punch lists, as we're creating all these things in HQ, when you're filling out the entry screen, there's a save button, and there's another button that says save and send. And if you click save and send, then it's going to automatically shoot an email from ProjectHQ over to whoever you selected as the recipient. In all these documents, there's a sent to field, and then there's another box where you can put in additional recipients that you want to copy. So the save and send button is by far the easiest way of sending an email from HQ. You don't have to worry about project email address and copying things and are we connected to Outlook, are we not? You just hit a button in HQ and it shoots an email to the recipient. I'm going to show you what one of those looks like. I mean, you can see them here, but in an actual email. And we're going to use an RFI as an example. But all the documents pretty much look the same. The big takeaway here, my email address is this right here, this RJC@Foundation. That's my Outlook, right? If I send an email, it's going to come from here. Well, when I do my save and send button from ProjectHQ, that email does not come from my same email address because, again, we're not communicating with your email server. We're not sending this on your behalf. It is coming from ProjectHQ. So it's got my name on it, and that's just my contact name in the HQ system, but it comes from appmail.myprojecthq.com. So there is the consideration that maybe who I sent this to, maybe Aaron here, doesn't get this because it didn't come from me and he doesn't have this email whitelisted. Now, a lot of web-based products are doing this these days. You know, Procore is the big project management program. They've been doing this for a little while now. There's a lot of programs where we have this really specific computer-generated email address, or you can send things from the program. So my point is, hopefully, this doesn't become an issue. We can let Aaron know, hey, our PM program can send documents right to you. Can you whitelist this appmail.projecthq.com domain? Absolute worst case, if we think that these are going to get hung up or they're not going to get seen because of where it's coming from, worst case, send it to yourself. When you finish entering the RFI, you choose you as the sent to, do the save and send it to yourself. And then you have the extra step, very easy extra step, but the extra step of forwarding that. So then you forward this email to Aaron, and that way it comes from you. It's in your outbox and your inbox because you forwarded it, and it's in the ProjectHQ mailbox. And then when Aaron replies to you, you forward the reply to the project email address, and it saves that email back into the mailbox here. Now, again, that's creating some extra steps. Hopefully, we can just send it just like this, but we got to be mindful of the fact that it's not really going to come from your email address. It's going to be in my inbox because I copied myself, when we do training on RFI entry and we're showing people how to do submittals and create these documents, we do recommend that you copy yourself on there. That way, when I send this, whoops, nobody wants to see that. That way, when we send this to Aaron, I get a copy of this in my inbox. And then we are relying a little bit on Aaron to reply all, but assuming Aaron replies all, then Aaron's replying to the project mail address, so it saves the email in the mailbox there, and I would get a copy of it in my inbox. So those are the different ways that we can send emails in HQ. And again, there's this project mailbox, which is going to show every RFI, submittal, change order, any email that I just generated, or any email where I had that project email address copied there. And then there is an email address for every document as well. Now, you probably won't need this one as much, but if I go into one of my documents here, and I'm going to pick an RFI, but the example really doesn't matter. You can go into any document. And I'm going to go into my open RFIs, and I'm going to look at, actually, I think I closed it. Let's go to my closed RFIs and 115. When you click on a document from one of those lists, this is a view of this RFI. And from here, here's a mailbox. Now, in this case, there was no back and forth. I sent this from HQ, and that's all I've done. And then whoever I sent this to, probably Aaron, didn't reply to it. So that's why we're only seeing the one email here. But assuming I sent this from HQ and Aaron replied, and then maybe we send another reply and you go back and forth a little bit, all those emails are going to be stored here. And then if I do a new email from the document, look at what my address is. It's not saying project 14001, it's saying RFI 115 as the first part of that. So if I send this new blank email, maybe there's a note that I want to send along with this RFI, I send this to Terry, copy that email address. Now it's going to save it in two places. It's going to save it in the project mailbox, and I'm going to see that email show up right here. So you do have that option. As I mentioned earlier, technically every document has its own email address, and not just RFIs, like RFI 110 and RFI 111, they each have their own email address. It is just a system generated number. So we're able to do that. But that is how the emailing works here in HQ. And ideally, through one method or another, whether we're sending emails right from here, or we're just forwarding stuff to this email address for the project, ideally, all of our correspondence here for this job is in this one place. We don't have to worry about bouncing from, Joe's inbox to Bob's inbox. Everything is in one box here, regardless of who we're communicating with on the project. And then we have all our documents tracked here, and you can email those right from here. So this is a good way to communicate internally within HQ, as well as sending information out of the system and receiving incoming emails. All right, so that's pretty much what I wanted to cover here today as just kind of a replacement. We will be able to show some of the notifications here tomorrow, or you'll see that in the program once we do this update. And again, we'll push out a video or something just to get you guys caught up on that. I'm going to open it up here for questions. I'll stay on the line for another 5 or 10 minutes here if there's any questions that anybody has. And it doesn't necessarily have to be specific to what we covered here today. If you have any questions within ProjectHQ, feel free to type those into the question box. And then I'll hang out here for a couple minutes before we disconnect and get any of those questions answered. I think there is only 3 of you guys on the call right now. All right, it doesn't look like any questions coming in here. I'm gonna give you another minute here. Otherwise, Mark, John, thank you so much for joining us. Here's my email address if anybody needs it. All right, so John has a question here. So John asks, the weather log is not consistent on temp or humidity. So I was just going to run one here and see if I have any of those examples. So are you suggesting it's not accurate, like it doesn't match the actual weather conditions, or is it not always putting in temperature and humidity? Yeah, I can see here I had a few that got missed in my example. But I'm not sure if it looks like if it misses it, it misses both the temperature and the humidity, but it looks like it's doing both when it does record it. If you have any examples on that, John, maybe you can send me a copy of this log, or you can run a weather log from HQ and I can take a look. Or if you're okay with it, I can just log in and take a look. I can pass it on and see if there's something that is disconnecting on our end or why. Because I can even see here that there's been a few days where it didn't record it every time that it was supposed to, like yesterday. So, John, I'll get with you on that offline if that's all right. All right. Any other questions? All right. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect here, guys. John, like I said, I'll get with you offline on that. We'll take a look. I'm going to send an email here in a second to you, and then we'll take a look at that weather log and see what's going on there. Really appreciate you guys joining. If you have any questions or need anything else, you can email me or call support. Thanks so much, and have a great rest of your day.